Hey everybody, Health Coach Erin here. I hope you are doing a great day. Today, as we're walking and talking, we are into part 2 of our discussion on junk foods and fast food. And today we're going to dig into the long-term effects of regular consumption of those types of foods. So in part 1, we talked about the short-term effects on the body, and as I said, today we're going to talk about more of the long-term effects. So again, this isn't an exhaustive list, but I'm going to hit kind of 5 major points for long-term issues that we can have. So the first one is kind of a no-brainer, and lots of us struggle with this, but certainly when we regularly consume fast food and junk food products, we can tend to see weight gain. With weight gain, there's a whole host of other things that puts us at risk for long-term as well. So in part 1, we talked about how fast foods and junk foods have high calories and low nutritional benefit. So due to the repeated intake of those high calorie meals, that of course can lead to weight gain, but it can also have the low quality carbs and the high sugar content give us kind of a repeated blood sugar and insulin spike. And so with weight gain, that puts us at much higher risk for insulin resistance and eventually diabetes. So with diabetes, we eventually may need to have to monitor our blood sugar level even on a daily basis, which can become a part of life for people. And then sometimes we would even need to, our doctors may choose to put us on medication to help regulate the insulin that our bodies need for when we eat food. So, and diabetes can have some other long-term implications if that's not something that we would be able to get under control. So first point for long-term issues, weight gain and diabetes. So another long-term risk that may be associated with junk food and fast food intake, due to the low quality nutrients, if we eat these foods regularly and aren't getting other types of healthy meals in, we can actually become malnourished. Even in a society where we certainly have food deserts, and we certainly have folks who cannot afford proper nutrition or enough nutrition, but if we don't get the right kind of nutrients, that's what malnutrition is. On top of just maybe not having enough, we're also not getting all the vitamins and minerals and the types of nutrients that our bodies need in order to be healthy. So all of those low quality ingredients are maybe filling us up for the short term, but that can have long-term effects from head to toe. Not getting the nutrients we need can affect our teeth, our bones, our vision. And so those can be long-term effects as well. The third kind of long-term issue that I'll talk about today people can deal with are recurrent digestive issues or, stomach issues. Due to the low fiber content or the high kind of greasy or poor fats, this can cause constipation, it can cause diarrhea. Some of the long-term effects can actually affect our stomach so much that we may not even be able to absorb nutrients properly when we do actually get them. And as we know, our gut health is so important for immune function that this can be another long-term issue that we encounter from too much fast food and junk food. The fourth point that I'll talk about is something that we touched on as far as short-term issues, but long-term exposure and recurrent exposure to fast food and junk food due to sodium, in part the very high sodium content that some of these foods have, but also certainly other things. We can be at a higher risk for developing hypertension or high blood pressure, heart disease and stroke, and a whole host of other things, even including some cancers and just risk of disease in general. So when our consumption of these types of foods goes up, so does our risk for many different diseases. Of course, this conversation isn't to scare anyone, but we have to be honest about what repeated exposure and intake of these foods do. And that's why we're here, is to educate and make sure that people understand that while one hamburger or something like that out, or fried chicken or something, isn't gonna kill you and can, be a part of an indulgence that we may make now and then, we have to talk about the very real consequences that regular consumption of these things can have. So again, not an exhaustive list, but the final thing that I'll say is most of the things that I've discussed, other than kind of the weight gain, we can't really see those. So sometimes the risk can kind of sneak up on us. But the last point that I'll make are things that we may actually be able to see or feel like they may have a more immediate impact on our lives, even though they can be long-term issues. Our skin, our hair, our nails, our reproductive health, hormone production, disruption in brain function. Some of those things can impact us immediately if we can't kind of get a handle on these things. So again, this conversation is certainly not to scare anyone out of their, favorite meal from time to time or something like that. But I did, want to bring this up because it's a very real consequence of too much. So if you want to talk about what is too much and can I ever have, a fried chicken dinner from my favorite spot, reach out and we can talk more about this, certainly. We do go over these types of things in classes, and certainly I can talk about this in one-on-one sessions for sure. I also wanted to cite just a couple of the sources that I used. Again, I believe I cited these in the first part of this talk, but Healthline.com, Washington Post, and Medical News Today are some of the resources that I dug into for some of the subject matter, and just fact checking and making sure I'm up to date on all of these subjects. So again, if you want to reach out, please do. I'm here to help. Thanks for being with me today, and I'll see you next time.